Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about how we can add fractions. So when we add fractions, we want to use the same rules as we did for adding integers. And I made a previous video on that and I'll link that in the cards right now. But also when we're talking about fractions, we want to rewrite fractions to have a common denominator if necessary, right? The denominator might already be the same, common, so we might not have to do that, but if the denominators are different, we definitely need to make those the same. So to do that, we can multiply one or both of the fractions in order to give us that common denominator, right? And just remember, whenever we multiply by to get that common denominator, we need to multiply the numerator by the same number as well, so that we can make sure our fractions still remain the same value, okay? So in this video, we'll do 3 examples with varying signs. So for number 1, both of our fractions are negative. Number 2, we have 1 negative, 1 positive, and then also number 3, 1 positive and 1 negative. So for number 1, since they're both negative, we can go ahead and just add the absolute values, and then we know that our final answer should also be negative. So I have 1/2 plus 3 over 2, and the denominators are already the same, they're already common, so I can just add straight across. 1 plus 3 would be 4, and we keep the same denominator. And now we can think, okay, well 4 divided by 2 is actually 2. And now we go back and we say, okay, we added 2 negative numbers, so our sum, our final answer, also needs to be negative. And so the final answer would be -2. All right, number 2, we have 1 negative and 1 positive. And if you notice, we even have a mixed number in here. So we're gonna have to remember how to take a mixed number and write it as an improper fraction. We'll go over that. Well, since 1 is negative and 1 is positive, our integer rules tell us we're going to subtract. And we're gonna subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger absolute value. Well, we see 1 3/8, right? So that's obviously bigger than just 3/4. So we need to subtract 1 3/8. We need to subtract 3/4 from 1 3/8. So now to do this, let's rewrite 1 3/8 as an improper fraction. I've always taught this as what's known as the backwards C. So we're going to go from 8 to 1, we're going to multiply, and then we're going to go from, take that product and we're going to add 3. So 8 times 1 would be 8, and then 8 plus 3 would be 11. So this is 11 over 8, and we keep that same denominator, so 11 over 8. And then in the same step, I noticed that my denominators are not the same. So I need to create a common denominator, and this common denominator needs to be 8. So if I multiply 3/4, what do I multiply 4 by to get 8? Well, we multiply by 2. So now I also need to multiply my numerator, 3, by 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. So now we have 11 over 8 minus 6 over 8. The denominators are common, so we can keep the denominator and subtract the numerators. 11 minus 6 would be 5, so 5 over 8. And now we need to choose our sign. Is this negative or is this positive? Well, we look back at the value of our original 2 numbers, -1 3/8 and 3/4. Which one of them had the greater absolute value? Well, that was the negative number, right? So we're going to make this answer be negative. So our solution would be -5/8 for number 2. Number 3, we have 4 plus -7 over 2. Same situation, we have 1 positive and 1 negative, so we're going to subtract. So we're going to do 4 minus 7 over 2, because 7 over 2 would be the smaller of those 2 absolute values. So now let's rewrite 4 as something over 2. Well, what divided by 2 is 4? Well, that'd be 8, right? So 8 divided by 2. So 8 over 2 is the same as 4. Now we have a common denominator and we can subtract. So 8 minus 7 will be 1, so we get 1/2. And then we go back to our original problem. Which one of those absolute values were larger? Well, that would be our positive number. So our answer will remain positive, okay? And that's how you can add fractions.